A smart man learns from his mistakes. A wise man learns from everybody else's mistakes. Find out more on the Richard Neese podcast.
We believe in all the F words: faith, family, football, and fitness. Check us out on the Richard Neese podcast every Saturday morning on WKUL.
Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. It's me, it's Dominic Gil, and we are on episode 2 of the Richard Neese podcast.
Man, starting over feels so good. Even the second one, when you come back to it, it's just such a good feeling to get back on the saddle again. I know I've said that last time, but I'm expressing my joy in this.
Absolutely. For me, the cool part is that my mind is already shifting back to thinking about these topics throughout the week and saying, that'd be a cool thing to talk about, kind of noting them, whether it's on my phone or actually writing it down on my notebook, things like that. It's been really cool to list out these topics, whether it's serious, whether it's fun. My side's going to be the more serious side. Your side's going to be the more fun side. You're going to have an equal balance, right? That's what we're both on.
Abbott and Costello, you got the straight man along with the slapstick guy.
We can go a lot of ways with that, but I'll leave that alone. So some things I was thinking.
Dean Mark, Jerry Lewis.
There you go.
There you go.
So some things I was thinking about today and over the week has been really about taking your own advice. Like, as I said in the intro, a smart man learns from his own mistakes, and a wise man learns from other people's mistakes. Dominic, have you come into issues where you had to learn the hard way as opposed to watching people and saying, you know what, maybe I need to stay away from that issue, or maybe I need to do it more effectively, take more time, things like that?
Probably 60-40, 60 that I make the mistakes myself because I'm always the exception to the rule. I'm sure we always feel like that. And I've learned over the years that once you believe you're the exception to the rule, you are the rule. So at that point, you always got to go and take the cautious side and realize, hey, we all have the same habits. We all fall into the same traps. So don't fall into that trap of thinking, well, I'm different. Because you want to know, everyone else thinks, well, they're different, and then we all do the same things over and over again.
It's not going to happen to me, right?
Yeah, that's
I'm better than that. So I was actually listening to the Andy Frisella podcast this morning, and just kind of Q&A, different questions that entrepreneurs were sending, and he was talking about just that. He was talking about the Midas touch, when people get too arrogant, have the Midas touch. And then they're also talking about, and I thought this was a cool play on the story of Icarus. And just thinking that you're this incredible being and nothing's going to affect you, and then you get too close to the sun. I may try and touch on that in a little bit, but I really wanted to kind of discuss, last podcast we talked about rucking, and you said 60-40 rule. Well, I was on a ruck with a young man, first time he'd ever been a ruck, and he was wanting to learn about business, learn about a construction business. He's already got one of those, and so he asked, well, what do I need to focus on? And those of you that know me know that I usually say, first off, it's effort, it's action. And then second off, the thing that I would encourage you to look at is your organization chart. And I posted that on Facebook the other day. Didn't get a whole lot of response. I guess nobody really understands. When I say org chart and the importance of business and a business, what do you think of, Dominic?
I think of that you categorize every aspect of your business into its own category, right. And then you build out a system under each one until they all work in unison with each other, that everything has a cohesion and working together and all has to make sense within your organization.
Absolutely. That's a great analysis. The first thing that I hear most entrepreneurs say is that I have to do all these things because nobody else will do that job well. Nobody else will do that job effectively. And that goes hand in hand with wearing 15, 20 hats to begin with. What I tell folks is what you should do when you're starting up a business, you're probably already halfway in. If you're listening to this podcast, you've already done something, whether you're a solopreneur or something like that. You should lay out that org chart and say, how many of these hats am I wearing? And then say, which ones do I not want to wear? Which ones am I not effective at? So am I a good CFO? Am I a good CEO? Am I a good COO? All these C's are important because once you start breaking that out, that's how your team is going to look in 5 years. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And we had the same discussion whenever we're looking over some of the things with my business. And there were 2 aspects of my business that I actually really enjoyed doing, but I saw that there was more effort than what it was value for what I can do.
Sure.
And one of those things was actually acquisitions, acquiring new clients, new sales. Right. It was something that whenever I'm talking to a new client that I actually feel good about the job I was doing, but the time it takes to bring one on board along with all the other detailed aspects of my job, because I was soloing a whole social media advertising agency, the whole thing. The other thing was actually video production. As much as I love doing the video work and the production, I saw that it's very, very time consuming. And then I don't quite have the patience in order to do it correctly in the way that I saw somebody else who, I was looking for someone who had the eye and the patience to work in that part. And so I found a guy to come in on that acquisition side, and he doubled my business in 6 months.
Absolutely.
And then I hired a guy to go and help me on the video production side, and I'm able to go and produce more content in a shorter amount of time. So we're able to handle that volume. So now I got to go break down in my own org chart and go down the list so that eventually I can get into that role where I am really just directing people and making sure that the vision, that everything's working as a unified, on a unified system that moves forward.
And we can break that down in a lot of different ways. You drilled way down on it. I think there's some other options we can look at too, but that would probably be an hour of just talking. The key that I was looking at was, you said 60-40. It's probably about 95% to me. I have to do things the wrong way in order to figure it out. 5% I learned from other folks, so I'm not as wise as I'd like to think. But that 95%, it hits you in the face when you're out there talking to a young man, young woman that's they're in the beginning stages, and then it's like, holy cow, I need to go back and redo that again, because I was talking about on social media the other day about success being bricks that are placed perfectly. You do a good job on one brick. Well, some of those bricks are getting crumbly at the bottom of my foundation, so I've got to go back in and dig those out and put some better bricks in. So I've been looking at the basic stuff of my org chart and saying, all right, we have grown, we pushed the race car as fast as it'll go. Now I got to figure out how I can support myself, provide infrastructure so that we're better off as a company, and then we can continue to grow up and help more people overall. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So it's cool to walk around with this young guy, a ruck on our back. It's 25 degrees outside. He was the only one bold enough to go out and hike with me that day with the ruck. But it's pretty cool to lay that foundation. And you could see the light bulbs going off in his head, because he's like, I don't want to take the time to hire somebody to run materials. And I told him, okay, well, you're running materials right now, and that's one of the lowest level uses of your time. And the argument always comes up, especially in construction. It's, well, what if I don't have enough work for that person throughout the year? It's something to be concerned about. So my solution was, how about you just raise that person's salary completely, and then you just bought yourself an entire year to work on your business as opposed to running materials. So it was $30-something thousand, 28, something like that. I said, just get a profit of that, and then put that in and say, this is going towards salary, and watch what will happen to your business, will happen to other people's businesses. And I hope he took that, because I think it's going to be important long-term for him to realize that as you grow, it's more about buying time and less about profit. Once you start tweaking the machine, then it can run, and you have to get out of the way and work on the maintenance as opposed to actually running the machine up from the inside, if that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a saying that I've heard, and I can't quite quote where I first heard it from, but in life, we focus on two currencies, money and time.
Sure.
Only one of those is replenishable.
You're exactly right. And you see memes and stuff like that all the time about the young man that's chasing money, and the old man that would give all his money away to have more time. And that's the kind of stuff that I think about. And talking about building a machine, that I'm a Nick Saban fan. I'm an Alabama fan. So there was some big news in the state of Alabama this week about them not being selected to the playoffs, the college football playoffs. And to me, I'm heartbroken that my fellow fans think that the 12th spot is acceptable for Alabama. Like, if we're pushing to this, we're going to be 4, 3, 2, 1, right. The 12th spot. We wouldn't even be considered 2 years ago, and now we're fighting for 12. That's not the standard that I think that Nick Saban and Alabama football set. What are your thoughts about that, being one of those LSU fans?
Being from the LSU side of it all. I mean, my thing, again, it's a completely different gripe, and I'm not trying to go and change subject a little bit, but my biggest gripe about the whole thing is, why is there not any kind of conformity to the way that selection is set up?
Sure.
Some years, well, it's the most deserving. Other years, well, it's the most talented. It's the best team.
Best revenue.
Yeah, and so when it comes down to it all, I truly believe that Alabama belongs in as a top 12 team. I believe that they are. I don't think I can find 11 other teams better than Alabama. But whenever you talk about, well, is it about resume. Well, what do you mean? What resume?
Strength of schedule.
Is it strength of schedule? Is it about the wins you got, or is it about the losses you took along the way? So that's my biggest gripe on it all. And again, I definitely, as a typical Bama hater, I have to agree with Alabama fans that if you're looking at who are the best teams in college football, the Alabama needs to be there. But also, in the same way, Ole Miss needs to be there. Yeah. South Carolina needs to be there.
South Carolina played, Ole Miss played. I think the important part of this discussion is a lot of Alabama fans are saying, what is strength of schedule mattering more? We're gonna put people on our schedule that aren't very good. We already do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, the SEC is the strength of that schedule. Yeah. So to say, I mean, we would have to play all FCS teams in order to lower the schedule. I think we were like 110th or something like that outside of conference play. So that, to me, that doesn't hold water. At the end of the day, what I saw young men that have already, in my opinion, they've already gotten paid. And so they were more focused on dance moves, and they're more focused on their meal deals. And how many camps have you seen pop up on Facebook for Ryan Williams and for Jalen Milroe? So are they actually focused on football? Because that's what we're truly paying these guys for. Or are they focused on building their brand overall? And if that's the case, then I'm not a fan of college football if that's what it's becoming. And that's just where I'm at. As far as the 12th team, Alabama can beat every team on that board. They can beat them. SMU cannot. But at the end of the day, when you lose to Vanderbilt, when you lose to Oklahoma in the fashion that they did, I mean, Tennessee, you can give, okay, they're a good team. Yeah. You're going to have losses there. But at the end of the day, you didn't perform when it was most needed. And even if they had made that Oklahoma game close, it was like a last-second win for Oklahoma, they're probably in. But they got beat down at Oklahoma. And so when you start looking at that, you can talk about the calls that happened with Ryan Williams. He should have had a couple touchdown catches. They got
that didn't, but that doesn't affect the game.
Right. But people saw that Alabama is not as tough as they used to be, and they don't have that focus. There's a lot of talented players out there. That's why they got kicked out. Plus, there's Bama fatigue. I love Bama. I want them to do well. I think this isn't nearly the team.
I disagree. I do, as much as you want to say there's Bama fatigue, but also Bama is the biggest brand in college football from hate watching and from its fans itself. It brings the most eyeballs of any other team out there. I believe that they were trying whatever they could to bring Alabama into it, but they couldn't deal with the outrage that was going to come along with it.
Well, let's get one more thing I want to pitch on that, then we can go on to the next topic. Do you think that the dollars and cents of SNU football, billionaires, multiple billionaires that are alumnus there, that contribute to that organization, that they will be a top 10 team, top 5 team in the next 5 years because of the nil money and the money that come in? I don't know if you remember, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s, when they were paying players big money there to build that team up. Do you think that money, that oil money, has anything to do with that getting pushed out? I'm just kind of throwing something from the side there.
From SMU? From SMU?
From SMU.
Oh, yeah, 100%. Whenever you got a former president of the United States,
that's right,
as one of their alumni on there who's a big into the oil money on that right there, I do believe that was a big factor.
There might have been some money changing hands there.
It wouldn't surprise me. I mean, George W. is not exactly my favorite president.
I understand. I thought that was important to note that, obviously, in the state of Alabama, we see that a lot more than most folks. But at the end of the day, do what you need to do to be successful. If you don't lose to SMU, or if you don't lose to Oklahoma, or you don't lose to Vandy, there's no question. Nobody's gigging them for the Tennessee loss. I mean, it is what it is. And there's a lot of...
Yeah, you're on the road in a hostile environment with a very competitive team with a really good defense. I mean, on the flip side of it all, it's just crazy how the parity in the sport itself, the two teams Alabama lost to, LSU beat comfortably. Yet Alabama just throttles LSU in Dyer Stadium. It makes zero sense.
To me, it shows the lack of focus for those young men. When they want to play, they go out and play.
Yeah.
And then, honestly, I also see that, is it Venables that's at Oklahoma?
Yeah, Brett Venables.
So, I mean, that guy was crushing Alabama at Clemson when he was the defensive coordinator. The guy knows how to do defense straight up. And Alabama doesn't truly have an offense. You take out Ryan Williams, you stop the run. Who else is there? They lost Isaiah Bond. They lost several good receivers. They don't have the weapons they had. Now, I think the ball will turn it around. Will we ever see another Nick Saban?
I don't think he's there. I don't think he's coaching at least at a head coach position today.
I agree. And then to me, that's the importance of having a system that fits together with the players, and then having the pieces in place. And then the pieces in place are important not only in sports, but also in business, right? So when I have a business, I've got to make sure, like we were talking about in the org chart, I've got to make sure I have the right people in place, but you also have support staff. Like I would argue that Mr. Cochran, what's his first name? The strength coach for Alabama. Scott Cochran. I would argue that he was probably, besides Nick Saban, the biggest impact in the national championship.
Absolutely.
Because those guys were ahead of the game on that. I think that's important to note because that happens in business too. Like for me, I was struggling early on with taxes and having a legal staff and things like that. What do you think are important kind of ancillary roles for a business as you're building up? I mean, what would you consider those important subcontractors or contractors that you use?
I would definitely go lean into where you just talked about, into the accounting world. We all can't be CPAs and everything, and that's probably a big one for me. The other thing is just focusing on something that is not within your strengths, something that you don't feel that you're good at, but then you look at the service and you're like, wow, that's really expensive service for me to sub out, but I can do it myself.
Sure.
That's usually the biggest mistake you're going to make, is to try to do it yourself on these services that you have no knowledge of and don't realize why those costs are what they are. The reason why those costs you feel is expensive is because you don't understand the value of it.
That's right.
And because you don't understand the value of those costs, you're devaluing that and devaluing the importance of it. When you do that, you're setting your business up in one aspect for failure.
Yeah.
And that it's all on you, which is going to take you away from doing what you need to do for your business in order to make sure that it runs the best way it can and you provide the most value for your business. So by taking on other roles inside that business, sometimes you have to. Sometimes it's not in the budget and you have to make do. But for the most part, whenever you see a price of something and you start looking around and start pricing out through the market and you're coming back with the same response, you need to really look at it and say, well, why are they all getting it? Obviously, smarter people than me who's in this business is hiring these services. Sure. Why are they willing to spend that kind of money? Because there's value to it.
That's right. So I think you said some good things there. Having zero knowledge should be a red flag for anybody. First off, you should have knowledge of all of the workings of your business, at least a little bit, even if that's enough to know that this is out of my hands. I'm not smart enough to do this. Or I don't think in that direction. But I do think that being able to go back and check people on their work is important. We've seen time and time again. And what I'll say on that is some of the challenges that I've had as an entrepreneur came from hiring the wrong people at the wrong time. One of those was an accountant that I had early on, that she was truly a bookkeeper. And I expected her to do accountant level stuff. And the difference between that is keeping up so I can track it, or actually helping me make decisions long term. And one of those, that bookkeeper, she guided me in a way that whether it was legal or not, it was really, really borderline. And what happened on it was that we were taking a lot of expenses when we should have been doing capital allocations towards the property. And so I didn't understand. I was trying to hedge against income because they want to pay taxes. Well, now 4 or 5 years later, 8 years later, I'm literally realizing those because I've sold the property and I've rolled into something else and rolled into something else. I've taken different tax strategies and things like that. But to the tune of well over 6 figures, I'm going to be paying taxes from 5 years ago. And it's not because I'm past due. It's just because of different strategies, whether that's bonus depreciation, that you have no cost basis, things like that have caused me to be in a place where we are scrambling to figure out how we need to work this because it affects cash flow, right? I mean, so that's where you start getting into the importance of having a good accountant and a good legal team. Can't be stated, but it's hard to find those folks too. So going through that vetting process is going to be important. We have a great accountant now. She is perfect for the level of our business. But if we grow by 2 or 3 more figures, she may not be the right person. And you have to understand that your business is growing, so your staff has to grow too. Your contractors have to grow. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Your expenses grow as your business grows. So just because of your gross income starts going up doesn't mean that your net income is going to grow as well. So you just have to go and learn to take those lumps with it. And it's one of those things as a business grows. And again, I'm learning that because I've actually made the decision to actually grow it out in a way and stop being the solo guy anymore.
Sure.
That whenever you start looking at the amount of contracts that are coming in, you start looking at gross, and then you look at net. yeah, your net's higher than it was before, but it's not as, when you draw it a line in comparison with the gross, it can give you a little bit of a, I don't want to use the word depressing, but a deflating thing. But at the same time, you look at it, you're like, well, look, I'm improving in so many other areas. I'm improving on being efficient, effective, and across the board, I'm producing a better product, and I'm requiring less time of myself to produce this product, and I have increased my net. Right. So you just got to take all that as wins.
Right. So I'm going to say something that's pretty important. And this is, I've seen this over and over again. When you are a high paid specialist, you are not a business owner. You may be a solopreneur, and so you get paid at that level, and you think, oh my gosh, this is great. I can scale this, and I can make the same amount per hour, or whatever the case might be. So what happens is you step up into a business owner role, and when you're the business owner, you're an inexperienced business owner. So you're managing all these people, but you can't get paid as a high-level specialist as a new business owner. Once you get better at managing, once you get better at the systems and processes, then you get paid off of the labor and off of the systems and off of the process of each person, but that doesn't happen immediately. So what a lot of people are hesitant to do is go from a high-paid solopreneur to a medium-paid, just like you're talking about, a medium middle-paid manager or business owner, and most people never make that jump. But once you become skilled at the business owner side, then you grow. And then it's just literally input, output, because you have a system in place. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. No, it makes a whole lot of sense, especially as, for me, it resonates a little bit more because I am relatively fresh into creating that social media solopreneur state. Now I'm moving into branching out as a business and realizing there's a lot of things that are out of my control now, and that I need to have something in place for that. So right now I'm at 2 employees, so it's soon to be 3, because now I'm like, okay, I saw something else that's popped up. It's like something else is popping up now.
Well, you're creating a machine. Yeah, that's what you're doing, and that's so cool to see. But it's disheartening for a lot of guys because they start spending. And I'm not saying this to you, but a lot of guys start spending, and that's like, oh my gosh, in order to afford my truck, I use me for example, I've got to sell X amount of houses. Well, I mean, that's fine if that's what you want to do. Mm-hmm. But if you want to grow a business, now it's like, oh, I need somebody to fill that spot. Now I want to make a smaller percentage of that. So now I've got to scale it even more. And so that puts people in a bad spot overall. But for me, that is a key to understanding and becoming a better business owner. Stepping up to that next level is you've got to take a step back on your income and reinvest in that business. If not, just be a high-paid solopreneur. Just be a high-paid specialist. The cash flow quadrant, Robert Kiyosaki talks about that a lot. You got employees, you got self-employed, you got business owners and investors. Those are not the same. And if you don't know that, you need to go listen to Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and the cash flow quadrant to understand what he's talking about. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And that's where I had a thought on that, but now it just escaped me.
No, that's fine. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, and this is pretty important, especially as we're growing our podcast. You can find us, you can listen to us on WKUL at 9:30 on Saturday mornings. You can also find us on Spotify. You can also find us on YouTube. We're growing out these platforms, but that's building a tribe, creating a group that supports each other in the business ventures. And the key on that, in my opinion...
And don't forget to like the video and subscribe.
That's exactly right. You don't do that. Just don't ever watch it. So what's key on that is you got to hold each other accountable too. Like if my services, whatever I'm doing, the widget that I'm building, it sucks. I need those people in my tribe to say, hey man, you can improve this. This other business is doing this. Because what I will not do is I will not support you just because you're my friend. Mm-hmm. If you have an inferior product, way inferior product, then we're going to talk about that and say it's either price or quality or something needs to change or marketing. But I will support, I'll pay slightly more to support you, but there has to be a reason why. How do you benefit me in my life? And I want to try to benefit those folks out there and make their life better too. If you listen to what we talked about today and it makes you a better business person, to me, I've added value outside of the product that I'm selling. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I've always took a backwards approach on that right there. Whenever it comes down to my services that I offer, I only give 2 prices. Yeah. My price or free. Yeah. It's like, look, if I'm helping you, I'm going to help you.
Sure.
And because if I give you a discounted price, all it's going to do is want you to have a discounted price from now moving forward. But I offer you my service for free. I'm I've created an active. I committed an active charity.
That's right.
So I did. I gave an active charity, and that is something that I would rather go and have is to have my services performed for free in order to help that person out versus selling my services short. So I'd rather give you something than to sell myself short on the services that I offer. And so that's just the way that I look at things. And same way I deal with anybody, it's got to be the same way. I never, when someone comes up to me and they're like, hey, man, because you're my friend, my family, I'll cut you this. I'm always like, man, don't do that. Don't do that. I was like, man, yeah, I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. This is not a matter of ingratitude or whatever, but you have a family to feed. You have to provide for your own, plus I see the value in what you do.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go and cut your services down and try to go and get you for cheap just because of we're friends. That doesn't, I was like, I'm your friend, so I want to support you. Not, and I want to pay you what you're worth.
So I agree with that. And what I tell folks on the front end, in most cases, I want you to charge what you charge anybody else because I want to pay for your services. I want you to eat. I want you to have a good life. Mm-hmm. There may be a time that I need a discount. And if I need a deal to work and I need the attorney fees to be $1,200 instead of $1,500, I'm going to ask you for that. But no, it's not just because I want a discount.
Right.
It's because I need to make this work.
Right.
Or there's going to be a time that I call you at 11 o'clock at night and say, hey, man, I'm in a pinch. I need to know what needs to happen on this.
Right.
So that's where the value of me, I don't mind paying you full price, but understand that if we're going to grow the relationship, there may be times I have to do that in the same way. If you need something, you're going to ask me, and I'm going to try and help you in that way too. But building the tribe, I think, is so important in finding a group of people that will support you in that, and then holding each other accountable to keep that higher level of quality, whether it's a widget, whether it's a service. I'm not just going to use it just because, but I want to support you in that. So provide good quality products. That's what I want from you. But overall, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build that tribe, to find people that believe in the things that we believe in and continue to grow, not just on social media, but continue to make a difference in our community, continue to make a difference in men's lives. I've talked about this with you before as far as men leading men, people leading people overall. We want to wait for a coach, a guru, a government official, a deputy, somebody that's a great motivational speaker.
Lead me.
That's right. That's what we want to wait for. But guess what? You and I can have a conversation, and I can set you straight or vice versa off of a quick conversation. Say, hey, man, don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Absolutely. Or,
I'm having some struggles at home, and I need some time away to relax. Well, instead of hitting that bottle, how about we go out for a hike? I mean, taking those opportunities and not just say, well, that's his problem. I mean, I think that's what builds that community out all in all, because we all have weak points. And there was actually a post that I was looking at the other day, and it had 3 guys carrying, it was like a beam on their shoulder. And each one of them had a spot where they couldn't stand up.
A pit. A pit. Mm-hmm.
And so to me, that's a great representation of what we should be doing as good Christian men overall. And if we're not doing that, we're falling short. I don't care how many times you go to church on Sunday. This is my opinion.
I agree. That's one of the things also is that community and that tribe is so important. We don't even realize, just in my realm of business, which is in social media, everything that's built on social media was built on that concept.
Absolutely.
Every single thing, the algorithms, everything that you see on social media is built around you and your personal community that you feel that you are part of in mind. So it is something that is very important because the advertisers think that's important. The advertisers know that's important. So for you to disregard that sense of having that established tribe, that established community, and accept it and to become a part of it in order for better growth, you're going to be more manipulated by people in this industry that I'm a part of, that we actually use that sense of community as a way to selling products or services.
So Dominic, I've hit all the topics I wanted to talk about today. We could talk a little bit about my carnivore diet and stuff like that, but I think we'll just save that for later on. Is there anything else that you need to hit on before we close out the show?
No, I think that does it. I think we're really pushing it on time right now. Yeah, we are right up on it.
Well, Dominic, thank you so much for being on the Richard Neese podcast. Thank you for co-hosting with me. We really want to help improve your lives. We want to have men leading men. We want to help you in business, in finance, in fitness, in football, in family, in faith. All those things are so important. So make sure you subscribe.
All the F words.
All the F words. So make sure you subscribe. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Do all of those things so we can continue to help good people get to a better place.
See you.